So this week on Medusa Kitchen, we're making Greek keftedes served with tzatziki sauce and lemon and onions. It's a lamb meatball that's pan-fried with fresh mint, cheese, similar to a meatloaf recipe. Quick and easy, can be done in less than half an hour, and you got dinner on the table. It's a great summertime light dinner. Bowl of soup or a Greek salad to go with it. You're good. We're making a really popular appetizer at Medusa, keftedes, which is a pan-fried Greek meatball. My mother used to make these at least every other week. My dad loved them. We're going to show you how to make that today, and we're just going to get right at it. I got a large saute pan, non-stick, with about a 1/4 inch of olive oil heating up, and we're going to make the Greek meatball mix. What I got in here is 2 pounds of ground lamb, which just came in about an hour ago. Nice fresh ground. And to this we're going to add a little black pepper, about a 1/2 tablespoon of salt, 1/2 ounce of grated Parmesan cheese, 2 eggs. Basically we're making a lamb meatball here, or a meatloaf type of filling. You can do this recipe with an Italian style meatball as well. I got about a tablespoon of fresh garlic. I got about a 1/4 cup of chopped shallots. I got about a 1/2 cup of fresh mint that I just picked up at the farm this morning. And then I've got some chopped up Italian parsley, not the curly, that has more flavor, with a little bit of green onion, cilantro, and dill in there. 1/4 cup of the pomodoro sauce, which is the straight tomato sauce. We're going to add 1 ounce of lemon juice, fresh squeezed, which we just squeezed about an hour ago as well. I've got a cup of milk here, and I'm going to use about a cup of breadcrumbs. And what this is called a panade. This is what brings moisture to your meatloaf or meatballs. You soak the breadcrumbs. These are fresh breadcrumbs, not dry. And that panade, see how it's just nice and soaked up there. All right, we've got all our seasonings, our onions, our garlic, our herbs, a little bit of lemon juice, some tomato, couple eggs, milk, bread, and now we're going to mix this. You can do this in a mixer if you want with a paddle. What's nice about these keftedes is if you don't want to go through the process of making a gyros meat and then cooking it and then letting it sit a day and then slicing it and sauteing it, which is a process, these Greek meatballs will give you that same lamb fix that you may be looking for, and it's something that you can make right away. And you can see I'm just squeezing this all together now, and there we go. Now I'll take, my dad liked them small, about a 1 ounce scoop, and a little bite-sized nuggets. You get these into an all-purpose flour, no seasoning, just straight flour.
Why do you do the flour coating?
Because it puts a little bit of a skin on it, for a lack of a better term. Gives it a nice finish. So I pat these in like ovals and get most of that flour off. This is not something you really can do a day ahead of time. If you made the filling a day ahead of time, that salt would turn your lamb really pink, and you don't want these to look pink when you bite into them. So this is something that you do the day of. This is where you get the kids to help you pat these patties out, or your guests, have them put on gloves and make these. Now after you've made these and you've fried them, they can sit, and then you can pop them in the oven to heat them up. So you can make them ahead of time if you want.
What would the reheat method be for that?
An oven, 350, 10 minutes.
It's like heating up a meatball again.
Yes.
Get it warm.
Exactly. But these, when we made these at home, my mother would just fry them and pile them on a platter and we would eat them as she made them, but they're great room temperature. I'm gonna make another 4 here, and then we'll get to pan frying these. Like I said, you could use a Swedish meatball recipe or an Italian meatball recipe, but what you have to have in these keftedes is you have to have fresh mint. My mother had fresh mint growing outside the house, and she used it always in her keftedes, and it's one of those flavorings that needs to be in this recipe. So you want at least parsley and mint. There we go. We got these, and we'll push these down just a little bit. I check my oil by sprinkling a little flour in there. And we want to pan fry these on like a medium heat. You don't want to go too hot on them because the outside will get crusted and beautiful, but the inside won't have time to cook. So, I mean, it's okay if you made them medium, but this keftede recipe is for a piece of, cooked all the way through. So excited that I'm doing this recipe finally, because there are a lot of people out there that want to know how to make these. They always requested them at the restaurant, but they were difficult to do because you had to make them to order. I could cook them ahead of time, but they're just not as juicy as they are when they're fresh. And we like to cook to order at the restaurant. So we've got a nice medium heat going here. They'll take about 4 or 5 minutes per side. Now, to serve these, very similar to gyros, onions and tomatoes. You can serve these keftedes with pita bread and make kind of like a falafel. You can open up a pocket pita, and with falafels you put tomato and lettuce and sesame tahini sauce and tzatziki and falafel balls and crumbled feta. Remember, when we're chopping or slicing with our knife, we angle the knife out just a bit, and we're basically holding the food with our left hand. And as you get to the end, you just slow down, okay? Don't go real fast. And get that all cut up. We'll break this onion up nice, and we'll make a couple of different style plates. But like I said, you can fill these into a pita bread and make a sandwich out of it as well. These are the homegrown farm tomatoes, which have never seen a refrigerator. Get these tomatoes nice sliced. When they're room temperature like this, they eat so lovely. We spread these tomatoes on the plate. We put a little bit of our chopped herbs. Now, for a different look, you can cut this tomato in thirds. So you've got these nice chunks. And we can sprinkle these around the plate like so. A little bit of herbage, parsley, cilantro, fresh dill. Got some green onions in there this time. Our keftedes here, they're cooking up really nicely. When someone had asked earlier about why do you flour it, because now it's got this little crust on it. It's a texture thing. You could fry these without flour. You could use a cassava flour, which is gluten-free. Well, what that flour does, it gives us a nice crunch, well, not a crunchy coating, but something that has a little bit of texture. And notice how we're not pan frying these really hard. We're just letting this meatball cook all the way through. We'll go another 4 to 5 minutes, and we'll let that go. We made some fresh tzatziki sauce today. Look at that. I taught my daughter Zania how to make this. Green onions, mint, cilantro, dill, salt, pepper, a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of garlic, not too much. Tzatziki sauce is something that you want to be not heavily seasoned. And like a lot of Greek food, you need to have the ability to squeeze lemon on the lamb, which makes it just, it takes it that extra level. Okay, well, we'll sprinkle a little black pepper around the plate because, you know, people might want to take their keftede, and I'm liking this. We're going to take one out. One of the things that I haven't mentioned is when you make this, get a small saute pan and test a patty to check it for salt. I've made this recipe so often that I didn't need to do that. But it might be a good idea if you took a small saute pan, pan fried a couple of these ahead of time just to check for salt. Look at that. It's just a little bit raw inside, but still safe enough to eat because it's lamb, it's not pork. We're good on salt. We got nice moisture. It's nice and juicy. Look at that. If you make these ahead of time, you might lose a little bit of that juice, but because we added the panade to this mixture, they're still going to be moist. We're going to give these one more turn because I don't want them to be medium. I want them to be cooked all the way through. You notice how that flour crust on the keftedes is starting to get a nice color. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something that has a little bit of a crispy coating. We'll just give this another minute. What I like to do is I like to set them on a paper towel or a kitchen towel to absorb some of that extra grease. So these come out of here. If you didn't have that flour on there, you wouldn't have that nice coating on these. And they would still be delicious. But that coating, you know, I mean, we eat so much with texture as well as flavor. And it gives you a nice texture in your mouth. You've got the moist, soft filling. You've got a little bit of that nice, crispy coating. And you go ahead and you fry your next batch. We just put these keftedes right on the platter, like so. And this is how I'm going to be serving them this Friday for a dinner that I'm doing. That'll go to the table like that. Now, if you were doing an individual order, I always like to do odd numbers. So it's either 3 or 5. I'm going with 5 because they're about 3/4 of an ounce to an ounce. And you got a nice appetizer there for 2 people. Now, what you must do, and I'm not going to use the lemons that I put on the platter because I still have to take a photo, but you have to squeeze lemon on these keftedes. That is a must. It will not be as good if it's without the lemon juice. And you make sure you get each one with lemon juice. Give it a little dusting of salt or cheese. The Mazithra cheese works really good for this. That's the hard Greek cheese. And that's Greek keftedes. You know, these would be great, like I said, in a pita bread to make a sandwich. Take a little bit of tzatziki. You gotta have the lemon. I gotta do it again. I'm sorry. You could make these with ground beef, but they're not going to be as authentic as a Greek keftede. Greek keftedes are made with ground lamb. You could use beef. You could use veal. You could use beef and veal. You could make these with ground chicken. You can use a Swedish meatball recipe, an Italian meatball recipe. But this is the way my mother made them. And she would make at least 50 or 60 of them because we would just snack on them all night. This is a great dish for movie night. Put a platter of these on the table with tzatziki and everybody can help themselves. People went crazy for these, and I don't see why not because it is a delicious appetizer, light entree. It's a perfect summer entree with a glass of crisp white wine. a good loaf of crusty sesame bread, you will be getting your Greek on. And that's what we want to do. Quick and easy. Greek pan-fried meatballs or keftedes. Make sure your lamb is fresh. Cut fresh herbs. You could use grated onion instead of the shallots. I like the shallots. Fresh garlic. You could use Mazita or Parmesan. A couple of eggs. A good fresh breadcrumb, not the dry ones. The fresh ones soak up more milk and they give you a better moisture. So use fresh breadcrumbs. Take a couple slices of bread and run them through the Robocoup, or chop it up and put it in the blender, but make a fresh breadcrumb. I mean, these are fresh. I just made the bread today. I mean, you want some moisture in these breadcrumbs. And you can leave the crust on. No big deal. We love the followers. Thank you so much for supporting me. And I hope you try this recipe. We'll see you next week.